I mean, the show was so outrageous and so over the top and pushed the envelope in a way that had never been done before and was smart and funny, which were the most important things, that it took off like a rocket and it never looked back. And they're still doing it 26, 27 years later.
This is The Media Machine, where media, business, and innovation intersect. Hi, I'm Johanna Salazar, and I'll be your host as we examine the future of content, technology, and entertainment through the lens of four key pillars: process, profit, people, and planet. Every breakthrough idea is a process. And in season 1, our guests gave us an inside look at how projects, shows, and entire empires are built. The risks, the pivots, and the creative sparks that made it possible. Today, we've pulled together a collection of conversations with leaders who walk us through the making of some truly remarkable projects. From developing a cultural phenomenon like South Park, to shaping NASA's James Webb Telescope documentary, to bold brand campaigns and innovative TV shows. These stories reveal the messy, fascinating, and often surprising journey from idea to execution. So if you've ever wondered what really goes into creating something memorable, this episode is for you. The process is not always linear. It's messy, unpredictable, and sometimes risky. Actually, always risky. But it's also where the magic happens. For those people out there, a lot of media people who listen to this, they know all of this, but anybody out there who doesn't really understand what the greenlight process is, explain what that is.
Sure. Greenlighting process is when producers take concepts to a network or a buyer, or an idea is created in-house, and you have to go through the development process of pitching a concept, realizing what the story is, the story arc, the characters, all the elements of the show, and it goes to high-level executives to determine if that project's going to move forward, if it's going to have a development process, or if it's going to go straight to series. It's multi-step. It all depends on the project.
So you get the project greenlit, and then you start working on that project. So walk us a little bit on through what that process looks like, as much as you can say.
Yeah, I mean, I think for any project, once it's sold and in development, it's about developing out and expanding the idea to work for the brand in which you're developing it for. It's casting the hosts, it's writing the creative, it's, visualizing the set, it's populating all of the teams within the production with A-list kind of like key positions and having them fill out their crew. But it's really visualizing it all before you populate and you develop and you move forward.
Tell us a little bit about a significant project that went to Greenlight that you worked on.
So I was really fortunate, and I was invited into Disney to work with a really wonderful executive named Claire McCabe to help in the alternative programming department. And they had been pitched an idea for a dance competition show that really did not exist and wasn't developed out yet. It was like a 40-second video or something like that. And our team developed out, and I was part of the team, this incredible 21 episode straight to series show called Disney Fam Jam. It was produced by Matador, but the development process of it was really fun because it was like, do we do families? How exactly are we going to execute the creative? What is it going to look like? What will the visual landscape be? What will the music look like? How about the graphics? Who's going to host it? I mean, we really built it from the ground up and presented it, and it was greenlit straight to series.
Wow, that's crazy. That doesn't happen often. What do you think it was about those shows that got them greenlit?
Well, for Disney Fam Jam, it was around the time like TikTok really exploded and people were doing dance videos everywhere. So it was really an expansion of that interest. And then the baking show, it was COVID too. People were baking at home, and that really exploded. So it was timing, but it was also execution. It was all really fun. Children's programming is fun because it's like happy and it's bright and vibrant. People are, excited to be on set, and it's just a really good positive space to be in.
What about South Park? I mean, that became a cultural phenomenon.
A woman named Debbie Liebling, who was our development lead in Los Angeles. I had come out to LA on one of my, regular trips, and she said, I have to show you something. And she put this tape into a machine, and she showed me this short, which people might know is the original South Park short was called The Spirit of Christmas, or was also known as Jesus versus Santa. And she played it for me, and I thought, oh my God, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. Uh, can we, let's play that again. And she did. And I was like, okay, we have to be in business with these guys. I don't think we can do that. Now, you got to remember, this is the mid 90s. And I think the edgiest things on television, again, you have to really bring yourself back, were The Simpsons, Married with Children, maybe Beavis and Butthead. But that was the line. That was the edgy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And, it wasn't like it is today. The envelope had not been pushed. And so I said, I don't think we can do that, but we should be in business with those guys, and we should do the show. And we convinced them to come to Comedy Central, because we did convince them we would let them do the show they wanted to do. We had nothing to lose. Yeah, it kind of changed everything. And ultimately, and almost from the beginning, they did do that. I mean, the show was so outrageous and so over the top and pushed the envelope in a way that had never been done before, and was smart and funny, which were the most important things, that it took off like a rocket and it never looked back. And they're still doing it 27 years later.
Anyone listening who's never seen NASA Plus, where do they start? What's the first thing they need to do? What's the first
So,
thing they need to watch?
I would say, and I know I talked about it earlier with Cosmic Dawn,
Okay.
just because it tells the story of the people who work behind the scenes. It shows the heartbeat of NASA, something that people have never seen before, and it really sets a tone for what NASA Plus is and the types of stories that we're going to be telling. That documentary, when I first got here and I found out that there was a stack of archival following the James Webb Space Telescope for 25 years.
Wow.
If I was a network exec anywhere else, I'd be like, get that, we're making a show. Like, stuff people hadn't seen before. And I was like, okay, that's going to be something. That's NASA Plus. Like, that is a product for NASA Plus. And it's only something that we could do. Like, we just have so much of it and we have the knowledge, right? And so that right there, again, it's like telling these stories of these scientists and engineers that you didn't know existed. You might have known a little bit, but they're real people, like they have families. Imagine working on something for 25 years, knowing that it could go south at any point.
Were you the one that was able to say, okay, guys, does anybody not realize what we're sitting on top of?
Yes.
We're sitting on top of gems.
Yes.
Wow.
Like, I came out from LA, right? They were like, okay, we want a streaming platform. I'm like, okay, do you guys have content? They're like, yeah, it's all over the place. True story. So my first job was to go through our YouTube and just like start pulling content, and then just start calling people and asking about what they have. And then I met with a buddy of mine, Patrick Lynch, over at Goddard. And he told me he's like, listen, we have all this footage from filming the James Webb Space Telescope for 25 years. And I was like, let's make it a doc. And at first it was going to be a series. And I was like, you know what? No, we got to really focus here. Time is of the essence, like, all that stuff. Let's really tell a good story here, and that's what happened, but it was the thing that, like, honestly sold NASA Plus to myself. Wow. Because if I was in the private sector and I saw this come in, I'd be like, oh yes, yeah. And that's the thing. NASA films all of their missions. It's a requirement. There is all this archival. Yeah. Space Act in 1958. Like, we have to share, we have to cover it. We have to share a story of the world. So, I'm a doc nerd, right? Like, I love it. And so digging into that just iconic, archival and helping shape these stories. And so I'm part of it from beginning to the end, making sure they're, I let the team do their thing, and I step in when need be, but yeah, beginning, middle, and end, I'm there for the entire process.
So you worked at a company that pretty much holds a lot of people's data, not just all kinds of personal health, everything. I mean, 23andMe, and for those who don't know what 23andMe it's a tool that tells you everything about your DNA. So tell us what it was like to work there, to design, and what did you do? Tell us about what you did.
Is absolutely an interesting time to talk about 23andMe. In fact, as you said, the personal genetics company, they hit super unicorn status with a valuation of, I believe it was $6 billion after going public in 2021, but they filed for bankruptcy just a few months ago. And a few weeks ago, a pharmaceutical company acquired them through auction for $256 million. By the way, all of that happened after I left in 2020.
That is
Yeah,
blowing my mind.
it is very insane, and I won't even get into all the drama of the last few years. If anybody's interested, there's plenty to read about it. But I joined in 2017 as the head of product design. It was the best timing because they had just gained FDA authorization for the serious health reports a few months before I got there. And the time that I was there pre-pandemic was they definitely hit the peak cultural significance moment, like, mentioned in a Lizzo song and memes everywhere. And it really was an amazing experience and a very, very, very cool company. Their mission was, if I can remember this, was to help people access, understand, and benefit from the human genome. And I really have to say that everything about the brand and the product was human centered. So I oversaw all of product design. That means everything related to when you sign up to the service and everything you see and experience. We had a really amazing customer insights team and a customer support team that our product teams worked really closely with. And I also hired a dedicated user researcher. There was some fun reports like, left-handedness or, photic sneeze, like do you sneeze when you look at the sun, like silly things like that. But really the two big things were the ancestry features and the health features. On the ancestry side, we knew that, results could be very emotional, like for example, if there were surprises, or if people were looking for relatives. And on the health side, obviously, there could be some very serious information that's shared, particularly around, health risk estimates, anything from, your likelihood of risk from Alzheimer's to mutations that are related to breast cancer. So we did a ton of user research and user testing on interactions and flows, and especially for content clarity. So everything we did was very, very important to helping our customers understand and really in a simple way. It was super, super critical to everything we did. It's kind of scary in the past few years that the high level of attention to trust and clarity across the tech industry specifically has really, really declined. So it's kind of top of mind when I think back about, the care that we took, not only because we were FDA regulated. I mean, especially on the health side, that information had to meet certain guidelines for understandability, for example. But it's not just, out of necessity. It really is a responsibility too. So it was a great experience working there.
Now, we saw another pivot in the kind of programming airing on the channel with the commissioning of the single camera show, Younger. And what were you seeing at the time that drove you to take these gambles in programming for the network? I mean, they're still
Actually,
relevant today.
we had probably 3 or 4, maybe 5 years of success doing multicam sitcoms that were populated by famous classic TV stars, shall we say. And what we found in our research was that the people who were watching those shows were of a certain demographic. So they had a tendency to be younger than the network in general. So it fell more within the 18 to 49 group versus the 25 to 54 group that was watching the traditional sitcoms, the acquired traditional sitcoms. And so we thought that we had an opportunity to say, like, let's make programming all comedy based, always comedy based, but let's focus it more on the demographic rather than the genre. So the first phase with Hot in Cleveland and shows like that, we were emulating multicam sitcoms just like that we had on the network in the first place. When we went into the single cam comedies, that was more of a focus on the demographic that was coming to the network at that time because of the new productions of the multicams we were having. And so it was an opportunity. And quite frankly, it was, if you thought about that age demographic, what were the things that they were going through in their lives. And those were the things that were interesting to us. So if you were targeting a female 18 to 49 teachers is a really important subject matter, because most of those people have, or many of those people have kids that are in school. And one of the things we always thought was really funny was like, what happens in the teacher's room while, the public face that we see of a teacher that was always very respectful, like what were they doing behind the scenes when they actually were just hanging out with themselves? And that's something that was a space that we found very interesting very interesting for us. And also we felt that the audience would like that as well. And then on younger is, quite frankly, it's a fantasy show. It's it's about ageism in the world and how people think when you get to a certain age. In this case, she was 39. It's like, oh, you're considered so old because you're 39 years old. And so she was faking it to say that she was younger than she actually was. And I think that we were attracted to that because we believe that our demographic could relate to that kind of storyline very clearly.
But tell us, what is Duolingo, and then tell us about Duo and why you guys killed him.
Duolingo is an app. It's an education app, and it started as a language education app with a very, very important mission that we still have that until today, which is to make education accessible for the world. And so, and behind Duolingo, there are several characters, but the main character, which is the app icon itself, is Duo, which is a big green owl. And Duo is the center and the celebrity of pretty much most of the marketing efforts and most of the content that, you see out there on social media.
So if he's the hero, he's the main character, he's the celebrity, why did you guys kill him?
So it all started, funny enough, from the product. And, if you're aware of the lore of Duo, Duo is known to be this very intense character that has one purpose in life, and it's to remind people to do their lesson. That's his purpose in life. And through that purpose, it just sometimes ends up being a bit too much, and he's very dramatic. And so sometimes he just ends up going to the very, very extremes of things. And one of these is faking his own death. And that's exactly what he did. And the story behind it, honestly, it's everyone thinks that this was like months in process of like campaigns and getting together and working with agencies. And it was nothing like that. Basically, from time to time, we like to change the app icon to just surprise users and to bring them back. One more reason to come back to, if you stop doing your lesson, come back and do your lessons again. And so from the product team, the way that they work is, they usually create different designs and then they A/B test them to see which one works the best. And just happened to be that one seemed like it was a dead duo. And that one worked the best in the A/B test. And so the marketing team, we kind of took that one and it's like, well, it seems like he's dead. So should we just kill the owl? And that's basically what happened. And it wasn't originally going to be like a global thing, because this all happened right in the middle of one of the biggest seasons of the year, which is New Year's, like in Q1. And so for a lot of the markets, which are the markets that I lead, we already had campaigns going on. We had partnerships, like big deal, like partnerships, like in Brazil, like with McDonald's, in France with Tinder. And so killing the owl like truly didn't make sense, because literally the owl was going to be in a TV ad in Brazil. And so it's like, no, we can't kill the owl. So at times we were like, we'll leave the US do their thing and we won't explore too much into that. But then what happened is that the global account posted one post. It was one post, which was like the announcement of, we are really, really sad, Duo has died. It was just black with text. That's it.
I love it.
And so that was posted. And the following morning, the entire world woke up to just an explosion of like, oh, we broke the internet.
It's like
And
killing the
this is-
gecko.
and like this is and so then I had calls from like all the CMMs. We call the country marketing managers CMMs, which is basically how my team is conformed of CMMs in all the different markets. And they were all like calling me and like slacking me and like, what do we do? Like this is like Duo's dead everywhere, like not just in the US, like we have to do something. And so in less than 48 hours, I worked with my team. I worked with the global team on, okay, let's create a narrative. What are we going to do? Within that narrative, there needs to be enough freedom to allow the markets to also play with their local narratives and to try to integrate the existing campaigns and the existing partnerships in some way within the storytelling to weave it all together. And so in 48 hours, we just pivoted everything. We talked with the different brands that we were working with at the moment and said, first, sorry, I know this was not the plan, but hey, this is a massive opportunity for you because like we're breaking the internet. So you can come along and ride this wave with us and we can, work on this together. And so it just ended up being an extreme, success story worldwide.
That concludes our look at the process behind some of the most creative projects in media, entertainment, and tech. As you've heard, there's no single formula. Sometimes it's years of planning, sometimes it's a bold pivot in the moment, but in every case, it's about vision, persistence, and storytelling. And I want to add hard work. We hope these behind-the-scenes journeys inspire you in your own creative process. Next week, we'll be dropping our compilation episode on the second of our 4 pillars, profits, the business models, investments, and revenue streams driving the industry. Thanks for listening to our show. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us at The Media Machine Podcast on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. The Media Machine is hosted by Johanna Salazar. Our producers are Mia Vinciguerra and Johanna Salazar. This episode was edited by Adriana Saravia. This episode features music from Envato Elements. Thanks for listening.